Everyone around me was convinced I had the perfect life. Sometimes I even believed in that fairy tale myself. A handsome husband, a cozy home, smiling faces in photos, trips, congratulations from friends and family. On social media, Alex and I looked like the embodiment of happiness, harmony, support, love. But no one knew that behind the closed doors of this perfect world, I fought every day for my right to be myself. No one heard my tears at night, saw the fear in my eyes, or noticed how day by day, I was losing myself, giving in to someone else's rules and will. This is the story of how one day I decided, enough is enough. Sweet revenge. My wedding day with Alex felt like a dream. I, Emily, stood in front of the mirror in a white dress, unable to believe this was really happening to me. My friends bustled around, fixing my veil, whispering compliments, and taking selfies. My mom, holding back tears, stroked my arm, while my usually strict and reserved dad hugged me so tightly I almost cried. "You're the most beautiful bride," he whispered. And I felt a wave of happiness and excitement inside. Guests were already gathering in the hall. I heard their voices, laughter, the clinking of glasses. Everything was just as I'd dreamed. Soft colors in the decor, fresh flowers, gentle music. But most importantly, Alex. He was waiting for me at the altar, tall, confident, with that very smile that once made me believe I could truly be happy. I remember how we met. It was at work, in a big office where everyone only knew each other by name and title. I had just started and everything seemed new and intimidating. Alex was one of those people who always knew what to say to lighten the mood. He often brought coffee for everyone, and once he left a little chocolate on my desk with a note. "Smile more." I blushed, but I smiled, and that's how it all began. At first, we just chatted during lunch, discussed movies and books, sometimes argued about politics. Then he asked me out. I hesitated for a long time, but eventually agreed. We walked along the riverfront, ate ice cream, laughed at silly jokes. I didn't think it would turn into anything serious, but Alex was persistent. He knew how to listen, to care, to surprise me. 6 months later he proposed, and without hesitation I said yes. My friends were shocked at how fast it all happened. They wondered if I was pregnant, if Alex would run away, if we were rushing things. But I was sure he was my person. We were happy, and I thought it would always be that way. The wedding was perfect. We danced until morning, laughed, accepted congratulations. Alex never left my side, whispered compliments in my ear, kissed my hands. I caught the envious glances of my friends and thought, this is real happiness. We spent our honeymoon in Italy. Alex insisted on the trip, even though I suggested something simpler. I thought the place didn't matter as long as we were together. But he wanted everything to be the best. We wandered the narrow streets of Rome, ate pasta in small family restaurants, took photos by the Colosseum. Alex was attentive, caring, always coming up with surprises. Opera tickets, a boat ride on Lake Como. "Are you happy?" he'd ask as we sat on our balcony watching the sunset. "Very," I'd reply, and it was true. One night as we returned to the hotel, Alex suddenly stopped and hugged me tightly. "I want you to always be only mine," he whispered in my ear. I laughed, not thinking much of it. Back then it seemed sweet, even romantic. When we returned home to Virginia, we settled into daily life. I tried to be the perfect wife. Cooked dinners, cleaned, greeted Alex after work. He often stayed late, blaming deadlines and important projects. Sometimes I waited for him until midnight, falling asleep on the couch with a book in my hands. One day I decided to surprise him and pick him up from work so we could have dinner together. I saw him talking to our coworker Lisa. They were laughing, Alex gesturing animatedly. I felt a pang of jealousy but brushed it off. I trusted my husband. What are you doing here? He asked, surprised when he saw me at the entrance. I wanted to make you happy, I smiled. Thought we could have dinner together. You should have told me, he replied coldly. I still have things to do. I felt out of place but didn't argue. We drove home in silence. That evening, Alex was irritable, barely spoke. I decided he was just tired. The next day, he brought me flowers and was affectionate again. I blamed it all on stress. A month after the wedding, I decided to meet up with my friends. We hadn't seen each other in a while, and I missed their chatter and laughter. I called Kate and Mary, and we agreed to meet at a cafe. The evening was warm, and I walked down our favorite street, a little nervous. Behind the glass door, Kate and Mary were already there, chatting animatedly. I saw Kate gesturing and Mary laughing, covering her mouth with her hand. Oh, here's our newlywed, Kate exclaimed as I walked in. Look at her glow. I bet Alex doesn't let you out of his sight. Come on, I laughed, hugging them in turn. I let myself out, if anything. Sure, Mary winked. We remember how you checked your phone every 5 minutes last time. That's because you two are so boring, I joked, and we all laughed. We ordered coffee, desserts, and as always started catching up. So tell us, how's married life? Kate asked, resting her chin on her hand. Any regrets yet? Not yet, I smiled. Everything's good. The honeymoon was a dream. In Italy, right? Mary clarified. I saw your photos. You looked so happy. I almost unfollowed you out of jealousy. Yeah, Kate chimed in. I even showed my mom. Look, this is how you should live. And she said, Kate, get married first, then give advice. We all laughed. Is Alex jealous? Mary asked, squinting slyly. No, I replied, thinking for a moment. He's actually very calm. Sometimes too calm. That's not always good. Kate shook her head. My Steve starts texting me if I'm late. Where are you? With whom? When are you coming home? I tell him. Maybe I'm with a lover. And he says, as long as it's not with Mary, or you'll talk all night again. Yeah, Mary added. Mine thinks if I'm not home by 9, I'm gambling away our savings in a secret casino. With us it's simpler, I said. Alex just asks when I'll be back, and that's it. That's trust. Kate admired. Or maybe he just doesn't know what you're capable of yet? He doesn't, I winked. And let's keep it that way. We laughed, reminisced about college, about the time we skipped class to go to the lake, how Mary once mistook a professor for a waiter and ordered coffee from him during a lecture. Remember when we almost set Kate's mom's apartment on fire on New Year's? I recalled. Oh, don't remind me. Kate threw up her hands. Mom still thinks the tree caught fire by itself. The main thing is we all survived. Mary laughed. And the tree almost did too. Time flew by. I felt lighter with every minute, as if I was shedding the weight of the past months. Don't disappear, okay? Kate suddenly said seriously. We miss you here. Yeah, Mary agreed. You got married and now you'll forget about us. Not a chance, I smiled. You're my best friends. We sat for a long time chatting, discussing summer plans, sharing dreams and silly stories. On my way home, I got a message from Alex. Where are you? With whom? I replied that I was with my friends and heading home. Alex's tone was annoyed, but I didn't think much of it. When I got home, Alex greeted me in silence. He was sullen, wouldn't look me in the eye. "Where were you?" he asked as I changed. "With the girls at a cafe." "I told you." "Why so late?" His voice was cold. "We were just talking, time flew by." He didn't answer, just sighed heavily and went to his office. That night I couldn't sleep. For the first time I felt anxious. From that day something changed. Alex started asking more often where I was, with whom, when I'd be back. At first it seemed like care, but gradually the questions became more insistent. "You're going to see your friends again?" He'd ask when I was getting ready to go out. "Yes, we haven't seen each other in a while." "I think you're seeing them too often." "Maybe that's enough." I tried to explain that I needed socializing, that I didn't want to lose my friends. But Alex would get offended, withdraw, sometimes not speak to me all evening. Gradually, I started turning down invitations to avoid arguments. My friends were surprised, kept inviting me out, but I more and more often blamed work or being tired. "Are you under his thumb now?" Kate joked. "No, just a lot of work," I'd reply. Inside, the feeling of loneliness grew. I caught myself missing the old me, cheerful, open, independent. On the outside, everything still looked perfect. Alex and I showed up at parties, family dinners, work events. He held my hand, whispered compliments, laughed at my jokes. Colleagues and friends envied our perfect marriage. But at home, silence hung in the air more and more often. I tried not to irritate Alex, guessed his mood by the look on his face, by how he closed the door or set his cup on the table. Sometimes he'd suddenly snap over something trivial. A salad cut the wrong way. A light left on, the wrong movie for the evening. "Are you even listening to me?" he once asked when I drifted off during dinner. "Sorry, I'm just tired." I tried to explain. "You're always tired when I want to talk," he snapped. I fell silent, not knowing what to say. Anxiety grew inside me, but I pushed it away. Things will get better, I told myself. Alex is just going through a tough time at work. At some point, I realized I was starting to fear his return home. I found myself listening for sounds in the hallway, trying to guess his mood by his footsteps. A few months later, I was offered a promotion, a department head position. I was thrilled. It was my chance to prove myself, to realize ambitions I'd buried under the weight of family life. "Congratulations," Alex said dryly when I told him about the offer. "Aren't you happy?" I was surprised. "Now you'll have even less time for the house," he replied with reproach. "I'll manage everything." I tried to reassure him. "This is important to me. Just don't forget who's in charge at home," he added quietly. I said nothing. At my new job, I met Eric, a colleague from a neighboring department. He was cheerful, open, always ready to help. We often had lunch together, discussed projects, shared stories from our lives. One day, Alex saw us together when he came to pick me up from work. "Who's that?" he asked as we got in the car. "A colleague, Eric. We're working on a project together." "You spend too much time with him," Alex said coldly. "We're just colleagues," I tried to explain. "I don't want you talking to him," he said sharply. I felt a wave of indignation rise inside me, but I stayed silent. That evening, Alex was especially cold. And at night I heard him talking on the phone, lowering his voice when I walked by. I started noticing that Alex was withdrawing more and more, spending long periods on his phone, sometimes stepping out onto the balcony to talk. One day when he left his phone in the kitchen, I saw a message pop up. "When will we meet?" I didn't read the conversation, but the anxiety wouldn't let go. Questions spun in my head. Who is it? Why won't he tell me? I tried to convince myself it was just a colleague or a friend, but the doubts grew. That same evening, I tried to talk to Alex. You've been distant lately, I began carefully. I have a lot of work. He brushed me off. Maybe we should talk? I feel like something's wrong between us. You're imagining things, he snapped. Don't make things up. I fell silent. Inside, I felt like the ground was slipping from under my feet. Everything changed one evening. I stayed late at work. I had to finish a report. When I got home, Alex was already waiting for me. Where were you? His voice was icy. At work, we had a deadline, I replied wearily. You're lying, he said. I called you, you didn't answer. I was in a meeting I couldn't pick up. Of course, a meeting, he repeated sarcastically. Or with Eric. I felt anger boiling inside me. Are you spying on me? I asked. I just want to know where my wife is. Alex raised his voice. I'm not your property, I shouted. For the first time, I didn't hold back. Alex came up close, his face twisted with anger. Don't you dare talk to me like that, he hissed. I stepped back, frightened. That night, for the first time, I locked myself in the bathroom and cried, unable to stop. After that fight, I started staying late at work more often. It was easier to be around colleagues than at home, where tension filled the air. Eric became a real support for me. He didn't ask unnecessary questions, just listened when I needed to talk. You look tired, he noticed one day as we had lunch in the cafeteria. Just a lot of work, I tried to joke. Emily, if something's wrong, you can trust me, he said gently. I nodded but couldn't bring myself to tell him everything. It felt like if I said my fears out loud, they'd become real. In the evenings, I texted Kate and Mary more and more. My friends sensed something was wrong, but I couldn't even admit it to them. I was afraid they'd pressure me to leave, and I wasn't ready for that yet. Alex became even more suspicious. He checked my phone, asked who I was texting, demanded to see my messages. I tried to resist, but every time it ended in a fight. You're hiding something, he accused me. I just want a little personal space, I replied wearily. You can't have secrets from your husband, he insisted. I felt myself slipping away day by day. I stopped laughing, stopped dreaming, stopped believing things would ever change. One day, I saw Alex talking to Lisa, the same coworker I'd seen him with at the beginning. They stood too close. He whispered something in her ear, and she laughed. I felt a pang of jealousy, but immediately suppressed it. Now I knew jealousy was a weapon that could be turned against me. But what happened next put everything in its place and left no room for doubt. Everything changed on an ordinary day. I forgot to take Alex's suit to the dry cleaner, and there was a stain on the jacket. He had an important meeting. Can you do anything right? He yelled when he saw the stain. If it was so important, you could have taken it yourself, I snapped. In that moment, Alex came up to me and hit me. It happened so fast, I didn't even realize what had happened at first. My cheek burned, my ears rang. I stared at him in shock. Alex immediately started apologizing, begging for forgiveness, swearing it would never happen again. I love you, Emily. I'm sorry. I don't know what came over me, he kept saying, hugging me. I nodded silently, but something inside me broke. I realized this was the point of no return. I didn't leave right away. I held on to my anger, but decided I would never let him treat me like that again. And I decided to get revenge before disappearing from his life for good. I remembered how much he valued his reputation at work, How afraid he was of seeming incompetent to his boss. I knew he had an important project, and even a small mistake could cost him his bonus. On Friday, we were both working from home. I waited until Alex went to the bathroom and quickly changed a few numbers in his report. He didn't notice, and when he started checking the data, he couldn't figure out where the mistake was. Is something wrong? I asked, pretending to know nothing. Yeah, something's off with the report, he replied irritably. He worked late into the night trying to fix it. When he finally fell asleep, I changed the data again so he couldn't find the error. The next day, I snipped the seams on his suit and turned off his alarm. Alex overslept, threw on his suit in a rush, and went to work. When Alex walked into his boss's office, his pants split at the seam. He tried to focus on the report, but the boss was furious. The numbers didn't add up, and Alex's appearance made his colleagues laugh. "What's going on with you, Alex?" his boss asked. "You used to be reliable, and now..." Alex came home furious. I had set up a camera in the kitchen in advance to record everything that would happen. He burst into the apartment, grabbed me by the hair, and started yelling. I weakly tried to fight back, begged him not to hurt me, but inside I was calm. I finally had proof. When he went to his room and fell asleep, I packed my suitcase, took the flash drive with the recording, and left for my parents' house. At my parents' place, I felt safe for the first time in a long while. I sent the video to my friends, Alex's colleagues, and his parents. I wanted everyone to know the truth. I went to the divorce hearing with my friends. Alex tried to approach me, but Kate and Mary stood by my side, not letting him get close. "You'll regret this," he hissed. "You can't hurt me anymore," I replied calmly. "After that video, you'll always be the first suspect." He disappeared from my life. He quit his job, moved to another city. I started living again. I reconnected with friends, returned to my hobbies. I realized that happiness isn't a perfect picture on social media, but an inner sense of freedom and peace. The first weeks after the divorce felt like waking up from a long nightmare. I woke up in my old room at my parents' house, listened to my mom making breakfast, my dad grumbling at the news on TV. Everything seemed so simple and real. I spent a lot of time walking in the park, meeting up with friends, sometimes just sitting in a cafe with a cup of coffee, watching people go by. For the first time in a long while, I felt free. But along with that freedom came a sense of emptiness. I didn't know who I was now without Alex, without his control, without the constant fear. One evening, I met up with Kate and Mary. We sat on a patio laughing, reminiscing about our college days. "You've changed," Mary noticed. "You seem calmer." "I'm just not afraid anymore," I answered honestly. "I'm proud of you for leaving," Kate said. "Not everyone can do that." I smiled, but inside I still felt anxious. What if Alex came back? What if he tried to get revenge? One day Lisa, the same coworker from before, called me. "Emily, hi. Sorry to bother you." Her voice was trembling. I didn't know who else to call. "What happened?" "Alex. He started texting me, calling, showing up at the office. I don't know what to do." I felt a chill inside. I knew what Alex was capable of when he lost control. "Lisa, don't be afraid. If he threatens you, go straight to the police. And make sure to tell your boss at work." "Thank you, Emily. I just never thought he was like this." "Neither did I said bitterly. After that conversation, I couldn't sleep for a long time. I understood that Alex would never change, that he would always look for a new victim to control. A few months later, I ran into Alex by chance at a shopping mall. He looked worn out, his eyes dull. He came up to me, but I didn't feel fear, only pity. "Emily," he said quietly, "can we talk?" "About what?" I asked calmly. I ruined everything, didn't I?" His voice was tired. "Yes, Alex. You did. But that's not my problem anymore." He lowered his head, as if waiting for me to say more. But I just turned and walked away. I went back to work, took on new projects, started learning new things. My colleagues noticed the change in me. I was more confident, braver, more open. One day, Eric invited me to dinner. "You know, I've always admired your strength," he said as we sat in a cozy restaurant. "I never felt strong," I admitted. "I was just surviving. But you left. That's already a huge achievement." I smiled. I appreciated his attention, but I wasn't in a hurry to start a new relationship. I wanted to figure myself out first, to learn to trust again. One evening, I wrote myself a letter. I told myself everything I'd been through. About the fear, the pain, the hurt. I wrote words of encouragement, promised myself never to let anyone humiliate me again. I reread that letter every week, until I felt I could finally let go of the past. A year passed. I rented my own apartment, got a dog, signed up for painting classes. I laughed again, dreamed again, believed in myself again. Sometimes I still had nightmares. I'd wake up in a cold sweat, remembering the shouting, the tears, the fear. But now I knew it was just a dream. I was free. I realized that happiness isn't a perfect husband, a beautiful wedding, or likes on social media. Happiness is being yourself, not being afraid to live, not being afraid to love. And if one day I meet someone who respects my freedom, I'll be able to believe in love again. But now I know for sure, I will never let anyone break me again. I often wonder, why do we tolerate what destroys us for so long? Why are we afraid to speak up, to defend our boundaries, to choose ourselves? Maybe it's because we're taught from childhood to be convenient, not to make waves, not to air our dirty laundry. But the truth is, no one but ourselves can make us happy. Only we can decide that we deserve love, respect, and freedom. If you see yourself in this story, don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to talk about your feelings. Don't be afraid to take the first step toward change. Even if it feels like the whole world is against you, you are not alone. There are always people who will support, understand, and help you. If this story resonates with you, if you want to share your experience or support others, leave a comment below this video. Like it if this story touched your heart, and be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new stories.